Hello, and welcome. My name is MiniBetrayal, and this is Factorio Megabase, where in the last episode we set up this, which is lots and lots of basic raw resources, heaps of copper, heaps of iron, and a little bit of coal as well, coming in and being smelted. We've got ourselves 10 lines of copper, 5 lines of iron, and 3, I guess, partial lines of steel, which merges down to 1. All for the purposes of making space science. Now, the episode before that, we started setting up some oil. Now, thanks to some members of my supporter Discord, I've made a few little tweaks to exactly what's going on there. So I'll start off by showing you what I've done. So the system I had over at the site, turning our surplus into rocket fuel, I have changed. I could, I guess, still do the rocket fuel, but I decided in the end that because, well, I couldn't necessarily be sure that we were getting the right amount of light oil in the right places to make the rocket fuel. So instead I'm just turning everything into solid fuel. It's not quite as storage dense. If you look at the numbers, let's see, where is it? There. So a rocket fuel takes 10 solid fuel and 10 light oil. 10 light oil can also become 1 solid fuel. So effectively, 1 rocket fuel is 11 solid fuel, kind of. Or if you take into account its stack size of 10, 1 stack is 110 solid fuel. Compare that to solid fuel, which on its own just stacks to 50. So it's slightly less than half as storage dense, but it's more reliable because solid fuel each only require the one thing. So what I've done over here is I've taken our 3 oil fractions. Going back a couple of episodes, we have about 25 heavy oil per second surplus. So that is turned into solid fuel over there. Everything is sped up. Here, actually, we don't want the productivity modules because we don't actually care about the rocket fuel. It's just going into deep storage. We just need to get rid of the oil fraction as quickly as possible. So yes, 25 and a bit per second heavy oil, 51 and a bit per second light oil, and 30 and a bit petroleum gas surplus. This should be enough to turn all of that into solid fuel, where it will just go into storage. Then, you can see I've moved some of the pipes around. I've got tanks over here as well. So this is to do with the priority. What gets priority when it's taking the oil? So, here we have our 3 oil fractions from the refineries. We'll deal with the heavy oil first. So essentially all the heavy oil goes through this pipe. I'm not sure exactly how, well, I guess we could figure out exactly how much we're making. But it's going to be on the order of a few hundred. All goes through that pipe. This pump is always on. So as much heavy oil as we have will be funneled along here, down here, and into our heavy oil crackers. But if all goes to plan, they won't be able to keep up. In fact, they will be unable to keep up to the tune of 25 and a bit heavy oil per second. So eventually this tank will start filling up because it's connected there. When that tank reaches 20,000, this pump will switch on, and that will give our 25 and a bit heavy oil per second over there. That's the heavy oil, that's easy. We don't actually need any heavy oil at all, so that's why nothing comes out the top of this one. The light oil, so that's this pipe here, joins up with any output from the light oil coming from the heavy oil crackers, and comes over here, where we have the same kind of setup. We have a pump that's always on, that forces light oil to the light oil crackers. Eventually that will fill up, so this tank, well, eventually that will back up, so this tank will start filling up. As soon as the tank has 10,000 in it, this will start supplying heavy oil into this pipe. This pipe is where our space science production will use light oil. And that will use, according to my notes, 790.88 per second. So it's not massive amounts. Well, it is large amounts. Essentially, I can get away with pipes. I just have to be careful with how long the pipes are. But underground pipes and pumps together, I should be able to keep the throughput adequate. Then, because we're still producing more light oil than that, this tank will continue to fill. Once it reaches 20,000, this pump will switch on and send surplus over to the solid fuel production. This one here in the middle is exactly the same. All the petroleum from the refineries coming up through this way and the light oil crackers coming up through this way ends up in this tank. Petroleum doesn't get cracked to anything, so we just have a similar kind of setup. 10,000 or more in the tank will start sending petroleum to the base. 20,000 or more will start using the surplus to make solid fuel. And we should make... I haven't actually figured this out, but if I do the calculation now... So, heavy oil is turned into solid fuel. It takes 20 heavy oil to make one solid fuel. So if we do 25.6, which is our surplus, and divide that by 20, then we take our light oil, so that's 51.0232, and then it goes off the edge of the page. Divide that by 10, because it takes 10 light oil to make a solid fuel. Add that to 30.623, and then it goes off the end of the page. Divide that by 20 again, because it takes 20 petroleum. We should make 7.9 solid fuel per second. How many chests do we have here? We have 156 chests. Each chest has 48 slots, so 156 times 48 multiplied by the stack size of 50. Divide all of that by the number of solid fuel per second that we're making. We get 47,311.7. That's seconds, so divide that by 60 and divide it by 60 again. That storage should last us about 13 hours, give or take. Now, there's probably issues with this, again, and I'm probably also overcomplicating it more than I need, but I'm much happier with this solution than I was with the rocket fuel solution, so I'm going to leave it there, and we are going to move on with plastic. So, in terms of plastic, we need 129.130 plastic per second. So if I just say 3 belts is 135 plastic per second. That's what we need. So if I get one of these, stick down some of these guys and some power just so we can see what's going on. There we go. Right, set you to plastic and fill you up with these. So we can see there the crafting speed on the right is 2.55 and it makes 2 plastic per second. So taking all of that into account, to saturate half a belt, I believe we need 4 machines. So half a belt is 45 divided by 2, or 22.5 per second. And we are making 2 per second at a crafting speed of 2.55 at a productivity of 1.3. So multiply all that together, divide our 22.5 by that, and we get 3.39 machines. So 4 machines to saturate half a belt. So I think what we need to do is something along these lines. So that'll saturate the other half of a belt. So by running something like that up there with outputs, that will give us one saturated belt of plastic. Let me hook it up with inputs and power and everything and plop it down a couple more times and we'll move on. Okay, this is our unit. As near as I can tell, that should work. We'll have our 2 belts of coal coming in the side that will be passed on and priority split off one after the other. It should use, I think, all of the coal. As far as I'm aware, all of the coal that we're producing goes towards making plastic. If that's not the case, I guess we'll find out. So I just need to plop this down once more and twice more. And feed in the coal and the petrol. And the petrol is coming from this one here. So what we'll do, let's bring that up. It'd be really nice if that went one further, but we'll bring it up to there. And plug it in thusly. Okay, now of course we're not going to start making plastic yet because we're not actually making oil. The oil isn't switched on. I guess I should test it. Yeah. Okay, that'll switch on production of oil. Now we won't actually start making any plastic until this fills up to 10,000, but that should happen pretty quickly. There we go, and we're making plastic there, we're making plastic there, we're making plastic there. I think all of those machines switched on. Good. Right, I'll switch that back off. Okay, so we didn't get up to 10,000 on the heavy oil. Or 20,000 on the light oil. Okay, so yeah, we wouldn't have made any solid fuel there. Okay, right, the other thing that petrol is used for is sulfur. Or sulfuric acid. So, sulfuric acid uses the sulfur. The sulfur is water and petroleum gas. And we need 164.52 or 526 or 5267, or according to my spreadsheet, 164.526799730881, if you want to be that specific, sulfuric acid per second. Let's see, sulfuric acid is made 2 per second. If we do a similar kind of setup with the chemical plants, we're making 2 per second multiplied by our crafting speed of 2.55 multiplied by our productivity of 1.3. Each machine will make 6.63 sulfuric acid per second. So let's divide our total by that, and we get 25 machines. That's compared to the, what's that? That's 24 machines making plastic. It's a shame it's not 24 machines, actually. Otherwise, I could pretty much just copy that. No, what am I doing? We don't need 164 sulfur. I'm reading the wrong column. That's sulfuric acid. We need 12.7 sulfur per second. Okay, that seemed, I thought something seemed off there. I've never had to build that many sulfur machines. So we need two machines making sulfur. And all of the sulfur will go towards making sulfuric acid. So what I might do here, actually, I'll have to check out the numbers. But if we can do something like this, and just have the sulfur machines direct insert into that. So this one here wants 5 sulfur per second to run at full speed. And that will only provide it with 4 sulfur per second. So the limiting factor is the sulfur, but that's fine. Let me see what I can work up here. Okay, I think this will work. So we need 12.7-ish sulfur per second, and these 2 machines can provide that. I did have to throw in this extra beacon down here because the way it works out, this chemical plant lines up with the beacon, and that's not good. But they're all at the same speed now, 2.55. They produce enough sulfur. and it all goes into here, and this one on its own can just about produce enough sulfuric acid. So that just all goes into that tank there, and you know what, I will help speed up throughput just a tiny bit by making that pipe to ground. So I've got a space for the iron plates to come in for the sulfuric acid. The water comes in from a new line I laid out towards the lake, and the petrol comes in there. So let's go and get some iron and see if we can't turn this on. All right, so we have iron coming in, and we'll have some petrol as well. And that appears to be us making sulfuric acid. Wunderbar. Yes, this isn't running full time. That's fine. We don't need it to run full time. Oh. Yeah, we need it to run a little bit more full time than that, though. Good. Alright, so this was still switched off? Yes. Okay, so we have plastic, we have sulfur. What next? Alright, I have made a decision, eventually. So before I get into that, I will mention between episodes, thank you, autosave. I did a tiny bit of work on the starter base. I added in another couple of stations up the top and a couple more trains for iron. I didn't add any more iron outposts, so we've just still got that one there and that one down there. There's still plenty left in there, as you can see. That fills up nice and quickly. Just doubling up on the number of trains means that the starter base is now no longer starved for iron, as you can see. So that's good. But one of the benefits to that I didn't actually think about at the time was that it basically turned this on. So we've actually... Well, I did have a couple of thousand of these, what are they called? The ultimate transport belts. And actually, what's... No, we've got lubricant issues. Okay, there we go. It's full-on lubricant. It's actually gears. Not that the belt is empty of gears. It's just the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inserters I have trying to pull off that belt can't quite keep up with the demand. But yes, anyway, the point of all of that is that we are building up a supply of the faster belts. So, I'm going to use some of them. In preparation for the next episode, in which I intend to do circuits, I am going to make so many copper cables. We need 794.5 per second. Now, there's plenty of arguments to be made as to why you shouldn't do it like this, but because I have massive belt throughput, these things transport 270 items a second, I'm going to see if I can use some of that. Okay, so dividing our 794.5 by 270, we need a fraction less than 3 belts. 3 of these belts, entirely full of copper cable. So let's see. If I... down there. Let's do a little bit of experimenting. See what I can come up with. I have no beacons on me. Be right back. See what I can come up with in order to make some circuits. Not too fast, because remember, I still have to bear in mind that the copper can only come into the machines so fast. Right, so you are making copper cable. You'll have them. And we will speed up these guys. Let's get you all some power so we can see exactly how fast that is going. Okay, so this machine runs at a crafting speed of 5.5. It makes 2 in half a second, so it makes 4 per second. Multiply that by the crafting speed of 5.5, so it makes 22 per second. Multiply that by the crafting productivity of 1.4, one machine will make 30.8 copper cable per second. So I make that out to be 5 machines to compress one side of a belt. It actually is 4.38 machines to compress one side of those Mark 8 belts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. So 5 machines to compress one side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it would be another 5 machines to compress the other side. I'm going to have a gap in the middle like that. So we'll have... In order to get that much out, we're basically going to need to do that from each machine. That should be enough. And then if I grab these fast belts, I need to make sure that they swap the side of the belt that they're going to. Like that. And that should be a fully compressed belt. Now, how much copper will these need? So it needs 2 copper per second, multiplied by the crafting speed of 5.5. Each machine needs 11 copper per second. I might be able to get away with just 1, but I'm still gonna... I might be able to get away with 1 inserter. 2 would be happy. I think I'll probably just leave 3 there. The issue there is that will need 55 copper per second, which is certainly more than an ordinary Mark III blue belt can cater for. Approaching this from the other direction, 1 belt of copper can therefore support 4 machines. I could move these ones down to there. So then instead of having that come out like that, we'd have that come out that side and merge with it. In fact, if I merge that way round, that can work. Something a little bit like that. Now that wouldn't fully compress this belt. I would need another 2 machines to compress this belt, 1 for each side. But if I copied this another couple of times, so that would give me almost the second belt. That would give me almost the third belt. Doing that again would give me almost a 5th belt. Sorry, almost a 4th belt. 1, 2, 3. And then what I can do is get rid of that. Oh, do I want to do it like that? Okay, it's going to use more machines, but I think it's going to sort of help me figure out exactly what is going on if I do this slightly differently. I think this setup will work. So we've got, okay, 2 lots of 4 there on each side. That will give us almost 1 compressed belt. Remember, we needed 5 on each side of the belt to fully compress it. We've got 4 on each side. Down here, we've got the same deal. No, sorry. Down here, we've got the same deal. These 4 almost compress the north side of this belt. These 4 almost compress the south. The 4 in the middle get split. So we send an extra 2 machines worth up here, which we then split and add 1 to each side of the output belt. So I need 1 there. And we do the same down here. The other half gets split, and half of it is added to each side of this belt. So that will fully compress this belt and this belt. Then we have 1 more belt's worth down here, and then we only need to add on another 2 machines. Okay, so in terms of where I'm going to put this, like almost certainly not there. Now, each of these use almost a fully compressed blue belt. They use 44 copper plate per second. Fully compressed blue belt is 45. Now, I think what I should be able to do... So if I just feed 1 fully compressed belt into each of those, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and a half. I've got 10, so that would leave me with 2.5 belts of copper for everything else if I don't do something with the overflow. Let me go back to my spreadsheet. I'll do some adding up and see if 2.5 belts is enough for everything else we need. Alright, so I've done some numbers, and the long story short is I can't quite feed in a full belt. Primarily because, remember, each 4 of these, they do compress half a belt, but they over compress it, so we're not actually using the full belt. The other issue I found while I was doing that calculation is I made exactly the same mistake I made with the iron. Remember, we needed 4 belts worth of iron ore, but we actually need 5 belts worth of iron plates. Yes, that one down there is also a belt of iron plates. Yeah, I've got 10 belts worth of copper there, or copper ore, going to 10 belts worth of copper plate, but that's not right. Working through the numbers again, it's where is my thing? So we need 410 copper ore, which if I divide that by 45 is a little bit over 9, so we need 10 belts. But if we take into account the productivity, which I keep forgetting to do, copper plate, we need 492 and a bit. So if I divide that by 45, we get a little bit less than 11. So I need to get another belt of copper plate out of this copper ore. And the way I think I'm going to do that is come up here, copy and paste that. Then I just need to get more copper ore from somewhere. Now I could just go and get more copper ore, but remember this doesn't actually use a full belt of copper ore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split off there, merge there. So then all of the spare copper ore that is not being processed on these lines will be taken up and we'll smelt it in that 11th line up top. Okay, so with these outputs, I'll fill in that top one in a minute. I'm going to do a priority split into these inputs here. So let's get that set up. And according to my numbers, so we are using, where is it? 208, no, wrong one. 283 and a bit, we'll call it 284 copper plate, just going towards copper cable. So if I do 284, divide that by 45, we get 6 1/3. So we are using 6 1/3 belts. We'll call it, we're using 6 full belts. So by the end, I'll take off 6 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 5 belts left over. For other purposes, we need 208.6. Call it 209. Divide that by 45. We need 4.6 belts. We've got 5 left over. Or 5 and... but 5.6, give or take. So, yeah, I'm not going to bother calculating exactly where it drops down. But yeah, we know that after this point, it is no more than that much. Okay, then I need to figure out where I want to put this, move all the belts to the right places, and actually finish building it. So let this be a lesson as to why it's almost universally regarded a terrible idea to belt copper cable. Right, I need to hop back to the starter base just to grab 6 undergrounds and 4 splitters from the tier 8 belts, and then we'll come back, plug it in, and see it in action, hopefully. It's a long way back for me, but luckily you don't have to wait so long. As if by magic, we're back, and there we go. Okay, so let's see what breaks first. Those belts are ludicrously fast. But then again, so are these guys. Well, it appeared to work, if nothing else. So next episode we'll get on with turning those into some circuits. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else that the copper cables are used for. I guess we'll find out, but I've been recording for nearly 2 hours now, so I'm going to call it a day. In the meantime, I will say thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon.